Hey there, guys! Welcome back to the Impact Zone podcast. We're here to talk sacrifice results and review. I actually kind of don't know what to say about the very end of this show specifically. I think that the what happened at the end of the show effectively was a shoot or some version thereof of like what happened was basically legitimate. So yeah, I really don't know what to make of the situation there in that regard. So yeah, but it is very weird situation, and I said before, it's like it's such a weird situation, and I wanted to feel like this was not the end of this thing. So I feel like there was some legitimacy behind, or some of this stuff was planned in some ways as well. Like, I think there was gonna be a run in from Eddie Edwards or something like that in this match at some point. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure, but that was what seemed to be on the cards, at least. I don't want to just talk about this main event, but it's so goddamn crazy and interesting and whatnot that it's so much like, oh man, well, what else am I gonna talk about, type thing. um so I kind of want to just like see if I can see it anywhere here, um on the actual official page. It doesn't actually say anything officially yet. Okay. All right. Well, we don't know the status of Macklin at this time. Um, so I'm probably giving away the very end of the show here as well. But it's so crazy what happened. Um, and I don't know whether I'm sure that was a botch. Um, and maybe Macklin was concussed or something like that. I don't know. Um, I'm sure that this was not the plan to have this match like end this way. Like, I just feel that, I don't know. But let's start talking about the show itself. Besides like the main event, because we've got to actually talk about the show. BDE versus Ryan Nemeth to kick off the countdown. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. This one was pretty fine. This one was actually pretty good, honestly. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. It was pretty predictable, at least from my perspective. Um, and I said before, maybe it's leading to a tag team situation or something like that. But then again, I don't know, because it seems like they're playing hokey pokey with Ryan Nemeth and Nick Nemeth being in the tag team scene or not being in the tag team scene or whatever else it is. So, yeah. But still, like, I don't know. Yeah, it feels like that's something you might be doing. I don't know. So, but yeah. Yeah, BDE lost here, so it's setting up for a bigger win later down the road. I said that before. We don't know what's gonna come of that, or when, or where, or whatever. But yeah, it is what it is. I think this happened before the show, but Eddie Edwards said, "Hey, can I talk to Ali, to Tasha?" And Tasha said, "Yeah, sure. Uh, you can talk to Ali." Also, there was a match announcement here earlier on, but we'll get to it later. And Eddie and Ali, the two factions, met to say, "Hey, we'll work together. Basically, you can help us with our Moose problem, and I'll give you a title shot or whatever when I win the belt." So, and both teams walked away saying, "Hey, we can't basically trust these guys," or whatever else it is. So, yeah, I don't know how long that's going to last or whatever. Tessa Blanchard versus Jodie Threat. This was amazing. Really good match here between these two. Even in considering how it kind of ended, and I said like before, this didn't really have any stipulations on it, and I felt like this isn't the end. This is just the next chapter in this thing. And like you're only 2 weeks away from Rebellion, so I feel like you're gonna do something big there. So yeah, I'll be like I said before, expecting to see something between these two at least, or if not these six. Although I think on the last episode, Victoria seemed to get injured her leg, so to speak. I don't know how bad that was. Maybe it was just a pulled muscle of some sort. It was during the tapings, obviously, a few weeks ago. So obviously at this show, she seemed fine, even though she wasn't in the ring, so to speak. So yeah, but still, hopefully she is fine and able to get in there and do stuff if it's called for or whatever. So, but yeah, great stuff here between these two. And as I said, Jodie didn't get the job done here quite, but it was a great match here. And as I said, it really belonged on the main show, I think. But still, whatever. Let's see, where are we now? Nick Nemeth is backstage with his Call Your Shot trophy saying, hey, my hometown is Cleveland. We're going to Cleveland in the next 2 weeks for Rebellion. I'm going to cash in there. And I was like, oh, okay. But Eddie just said that Rebellion is going to be the night of the system. And so now I'm thinking, hey, it's going to be a triple threat, maybe between Edwards and Nemeth and Santana. I don't know. I thought for a minute it's going to be a four-way or something. I don't know. But we'll still have to wait and see exactly what they're going to do. Because, again, I do feel like some of what happened tonight wasn't meant to happen. And I'll talk maybe more about it when we get close to the end. But, yeah, I don't want to give too much away. As I sort of said, I've already probably given too much away. But still, whatever. It is what it is. To start off the proper sacrifice show, we get Leon versus Eric Young. Oh my god, this one was absolutely straight fire. There was a couple of straight fire matches here tonight. This one was really good. It wasn't quite as good as another match that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, but yeah, it was really good, like, this match. And I was like, really, really enjoying this one between these two. Even though I felt like this one was pretty predictable, in terms of, like I said before, like a few of these are kind of at least predictable, at least for me. Like, I can obviously be wrong, obviously. But again, like when you watch for so long and when you pay attention, you can kind of see like where they're going and why they're going and whatever else, that sort of thing. So again, like this to me was a bit predictable, unfortunately. But nonetheless, it was really good. And Leon pulled out the win somehow, some way. And yeah, well, we'll have to, I'll talk about like what's going to go on with Leon and some of these other things, like all the matches that got announced for Rebellion, because there are a few matches, and I will do a separate video to actually talk about those matches, I think, specifically, just if people want to see what I think about where we're going with those matches, rather than more of a review of this show and whatnot. But anyway, the one-man gang was spotted in the audience. That's kind of cool. I was kind of like hoping like somebody would be like doing something with him, but no. A few interviews backstage with different people. Gia Miller interviews Mike Santana, fired up for his match. He was really passionate in this promo. Too bad about the match later on, but yeah, whatever. Elijah and the Hometown Man versus AJ Francis and Frankie Kazarian. This one was just fine and okay, pretty good. Kind of a bit of a filler match, I feel like, in some ways, but it was fine, and I think the crowd was into it. There was some good stuff in here, certainly, as well, but it wasn't nearly as good as what Eric Young and Slater was, nor as good as a later tag team match was. So, yeah, this one was just okay. Also, I will say that there was a lot more angle sort of stuff on this show because I feel like they realized, hey, we've got to build these stories as quickly as possible so that when we get to Rebellion, everything is covered by the time we get there. And we're not going to have enough time on TV to tell all those stories. So we've got to tell a lot of stories behind, backstage, and things like that and whatnot. So, yeah. We get the Bioflex injury report. Matt Hardy is out due to his backstage attack. Indy Hartwell remains out of action after the attack by Myla Grace. Moose is dealing with an injury, but is cleared for the street fight. I'll talk more about that in just a second. So that's the Bioflex update. Brian Myers and Cedric Alexander are ready to take on Jeff Hardy and Vincent. We get a segment of Tommy Dreamer and Carlos Silva coming out, and they reintroduce Chris Bay back to the audience, who comes out and says, we have a brand new signing to TNA, which is Ricky Sosa, which is really cool. And yeah, we've seen him over the last couple of weeks here in TNA doing some stuff. So now it is official. Sosa has crossed the line into TNA wrestling. He is part of the roster. Backstage, we get some stuff with Mila Moore following the White Rabbit. Which leads to Havoc returning. On screen at least. I don't know whether she's going to be in the ring. Like Crazy Steve returned in a backstage segment. So did Johnny Swinger and a few other people here and there throughout these last few weeks and whatnot. But they haven't appeared in ring. So we'll have to wait and see if she actually returns in ring. We get the Knockouts Triple Threat match next. I really liked this match in some ways, and it was quite a good match. It was certainly better than the AJ and Kazarian match. Did I even say who won that match? Well, Kazarian and Francis won that match, I believe. Where are we? Yeah, right, sorry. I couldn't remember if I said it. But anyway, this triple threat is really good anyway, or at least better than the other match there. But, I think, I was so far behind Danny. But even though I felt like it wasn't going to happen, I was just this is kind of what I want. And I think, some of the audience wanted it too. The audience wanted to see, Lay and Danny go at it. And then again, that's kind of halfway the story that you're telling with this match is you're saying, hey, Ariana is this sneaky, no good, whatever, so and so and rah rah. But yet, Lay is very virtuous and whatnot and all this other stuff. And Danny is just, a beast, that was the story you're trying to tell here, I think. So, yeah. I was a lot more behind Danny in this one, but yeah. Unfortunately, she couldn't get it done, and Ariana Grace was able to pull out the victory after some help. Backstage, Mara Sade gets involved in Rosemary's business after receiving a letter and being told to follow the White Rabbit. And Rosemary wants to form an alliance or do something with Mara Sade. So we'll have to wait and see where that goes. This next match between Ali, Steele, Stone, and Trey Miguel. Oh my God. Can I give this 10 stars? Can we call Uncle Dave and get him to confirm 5 stars? Oh, of course not. We can't get that because it wasn't in the Tokyo Dome. It wasn't his guys. So, yeah, it's only going to get, 3.5 stars or something like that. Something ridiculous. Or maybe 4 stars, maybe something like that. Maybe 4.5. I don't know. From Uncle Dave. Screw you, Dave, for being too biased against some of these matches that are absolute bangers after bangers after bangers. It's crazy the ratings that some of these matches get, and I know that you shouldn't care too much about the ratings or whatever, but this match was absolutely 5-star match, absolutely amazing match of the night. Maybe like the main event could have been like close to this, but unfortunate. We'll get more to that at the end, as I've said. But what a freaking match. This one was absolutely TNA personified, total non-stop action. Amazing stuff here. And, absolutely deserves to be match of the night and a match of the year contender. 100%. There were a few botches, things like that happen in this match as well. Even considering that this was at least a 4.99 match or something like that. This match was amazing. And as I said, unfortunately, probably a little bit predictable, perhaps, at least in my mind, or whatever, along with a fair few of the matches tonight, apart from the main event, that wasn't predictable or whatever. And actually, another match I will talk about in a bit, but this match was awesome, and unfortunately, Trey and Jada couldn't get the job done, but a creative way to kind of finish that match and set up Ali versus Trey, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. But yeah. Where are we? All right. So now we come to... Oh, there was a segment between Ariana Grace and Laying Lee backstage, which Santino Marella interrupts, and he says, Zaya will get a title match next week, which, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially considering you were only 2 weeks away from Rebellion. You needed to set up a match for then, but whatever, we'll figure that out as we're going along, or whatever. Then we have the match between Moose and Eddie Edwards, which really doesn't get started. Agent Zero comes out and attacks Moose, causing a disqualification. So yeah, Moose gets wheeled out of there, and this was like a bit of a letdown in some ways, but I was like, okay, all right, I think maybe there was some idea, or maybe it was because Moose was actually super injured, and they were like, well, we've got to have this thing go on, or whatever, to some extent. We've got to at least tell part of the story, so that we can keep the ball rolling, or whatever else it is. I don't know, but yeah, it was a weird thing that you've set this up and that you're actually going to go through with it if Moose was that injured. But if you're just trying to tell this part of the story, I can get that. I can understand, okay, we're trying to tell this part of the story. Okay, all right. But it was a bit of a letdown that it was just over after a quick attack, a run in and whatnot and all of that. So it was yeah, a little bit of a letdown. But the next match actually brought back the audience very well for the show, which was between Elena Black and Mara Sade. These girls had a great fight, great plunder match here between these two. I think Mara actually got somewhat injured near the end of this match as well, or maybe just pulled a muscle or something like that. Maybe something minor. I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's maybe something else, but I don't know. So I don't want to speculate too much, because again, this was a pretty hands-on match as well. So things like that can happen in matches like this. But this one was great as well. Obviously not as good as the Trey Miguel tag team match with Jada and Ali and Seals, but still really great. And the fans were into this, so it was a great match here between these two. But yeah, Enya couldn't get it done tonight, and somehow Sade pulled out the victory. Steve Macklin is backstage, basically saying, "Hey, I'm ready," and then we get to see them, winding up their tape to get ready. Next is Jeff Hardy and Vincent tagging together against the System. Now, this wasn't that good. This wasn't that bad of a match, but it wasn't that good, honestly. But it was a lot better of a performance. I can't remember which match it was between Jeff and. Was there another match between Jeff and Vincent on TV? Or or the Hardys and the Righteous? I don't know. No, I can't remember. But I feel like they had another match at some point, maybe, or maybe it was just that the Hardys were like the Righteous would just come out at the end of their match. So I don't know, but yeah, that might have been it. But this was like the best performance that I've seen the Hardys do, or at least Jeff do, and Jeff have in a tag team match for a long time. But it still wasn't that amazing because like you decided to have this swerve kind of in the middle of it, I guess. Not that the swerve was bad, but just it did affect the match quality a bit, I think. And I feel like if you had just said, let's not do that, or let's have this swerve kind of on TV rather than being on pay-per-view. But then again, it's like hard to say. And again, this is more of a B-show pay-per-view, or whatever you want to call it. So again, I get that you can tell more stories on these like littler shows and you're trying to build to bigger things down the road or whatever. So yeah, but anyway. So the cat's kind of out of the bag, and Vincent and Dutch were revealed to be the ones who effectively attacked Matt Hardy backstage, and had been, and then it was like, Vincent basically turned his back on Jeff, and that cost them the match. And the one thing that somewhat, I don't know whether it annoys me, but it confuses me, I guess, about this is that, like I said before, I felt like this is where you're going. You're going to do something with the Righteous and the Hardys. My question is, who are your other babyface teams? You know what I mean? Have you even got any really other babyface teams? Yes, you do have some, but like they're not on the level of the Hardys. And, I get that can be the point because, again, like, you've got to build people up. But again, like, at a certain point, you've got to realize, hey, where are we going after this? Like, we're not just gonna sit here forever and have the Hardys challenging everybody. We've got to build some other babyface team up. They've got to get big wins and feel like, oh, they're the next in line or whatever else it is. So you've actually got to focus in on those teams. So that's my question now of saying, yes, you can say, I don't know whether, I said this now, and I don't know that I was accurate, but I felt like that before I felt like the System might win the titles. But now, I said this before, I said like maybe you're going more long-term with the Righteous, Hardys. I don't know whether you'd call it a feud, but the program, because at that time it was more like this is a program between these two. There's obviously a story there that you're trying to tell, but what that is and where that happens might be 6 more months down the track. But now I feel like, no, this thing is going to come to a head a lot sooner. I don't know, though. I always get this point to being like, what if the Righteous cost the Hardys the titles? You know what I mean? Because Matt's really hurt. Like, so does that mean like they're going to lose the titles anyway. I said before, like, you could be going towards like a ladder match. I don't know whether they should vacate the titles. I always feel like vacating the titles feels like not a cop-out so much, but it does feel like somewhat of a cop-out in some ways, and it feels like, man, what the hell happened there? You should almost never vacate the titles unless you absolutely have to, unless you have no other choice. And as soon as you vacate the title, you need to be like, okay, the next major show, or the next, as soon as we can, we're going to crown a new champion. We're not going to sit around and say, oh, 6 months later or whatever, we're going to have a new champion. No, we need a new champion now, here and now. So you can't sit around and be like, oh, well, we'll figure it out. No, you need to just pull the trigger on something and say, okay, cool. Now we'll figure out where we're going from here after that, and hopefully we've still got the audience. But I mean, for a tag team titles, I guess it's a little bit less important. Yeah, so, but yeah. Rebellion is 2 weeks away in Cleveland, Ohio. So the following matches have been announced for Rebellion here tonight, and there will be obviously more for Rebellion, and we will cover those as they're announced, or as soon as possible, hopefully. One match that I'll skip ahead just a little bit because this match has been announced, and I was just talking about it. Hardys versus the System, Brian Myers and Bear Bronson. So, again, I don't know that you're... I don't know what you're going to do there, because, the major story that you've got, that you're driving home towards now, is the Righteous versus the Hardys. If the System win the titles from the Hardys, then you kind of are, well, I guess you can do it with them not holding the belts, or you can do this feud with them outside of holding the belts, or whatever else it is. And I said maybe you might have them have to relinquish the belts due to not being able to defend them, or something like that, or Jeff Hardy having to find another partner, or something like that. I don't know what you're going to do there, but you've got to do something there. Because I feel like the best thing to do, like I said before, is to say, hey, the Righteous need to beat the Hardys. They need to beat them. 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. And it also needs to become clear in the next couple of weeks why they did this. You're not just building to this match between the System. You're more or less looking towards what's going to happen with the Righteous. So even if the System win these belts, at this point, the real enemy, or the real story therein, is the Righteous are the thing that the Hardys need to conquer. And there's no real other stories right now. So, again, the titles would be better on the Righteous, because those are the people that are, the main antagonists now. You know what I mean? So we'll have to wait and see how you're going to get there with that. But yeah. All right, next up is Slater versus Alexander. I said maybe this is where we're going, and I said maybe we were going to do something again with EY, maybe a hardcore match, but I don't know. Leon is one of the longest running X Division champions as of this date. Unfortunately, the division is very slim. So he hasn't got really anyone else to work with. So I'm starting to feel like, man, maybe we should take this belt off of him, or do something else, or let him call his shot with his option C or something like that, just to get, him out of that division, because he hasn't got really anything to do in the division right now. Thing here is, there's not much story, you know what I mean, going on for anyone else. So even if Cedric wins the belt, it's like, well, yeah, Leon can get his rematch or whatever else it is, and like you've had a lot of time in this division, and especially with Leon beating Cedric months ago and whatnot, of like Leon winning, and you haven't really shown Cedric to be winning. Cedric hasn't really won hardly any matches, maybe less than a handful of matches. So again, like to me, I have no believability in Cedric. I mean, even if he wins every single match in the next 2 weeks, like I won't believe because you haven't spent long enough building him up or building anything up or building anyone up to face Leon. So, unfortunately, I mean, maybe I could see the whole idea of saying, well, maybe you'll invoke option C or whatever. That'd be kind of cool or whatever in some point, maybe. And I think maybe there was some, like, thought of that, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, like, right now, I just don't see that you're gonna do that or that. Yeah, I just don't see that Cedric's winning, but like maybe I could be wrong. I don't know. For Rebellion, Frankie Kazarian versus Elijah, I really don't. I have like literally hardly anything to say about this. Actually, I want to talk about Buff Bagwell's return of recent. So that feels like I don't know whether that's going to be a TV match or what that's going to be, but like what's going on there because it seems like he's going to team with Elijah and do something there. I don't know at some point, and it's going to be against Kazarian and somebody or whatever. I feel like so, yeah. But we'll have to wait and see there when and where that's going to happen. But we'll find out at some point. But yeah, predictions. I don't know. I think like Kazarian's won the belt. You could say that like in that main event you need more baby faces and strong baby faces, but then again I could see like there's no real stipulation or whatever attached to this. So again, I could feel like Kazarian could win. This one's 50-50 to me right now in some regards. I don't really think it's over yet. And I said like more short term, you're probably going to do something with like Elijah and Kazarian. And more long term, you're looking to do something with Elijah and AJ Francis. So like, or at least maybe you'll get back there at some point, or maybe the plans will change. And whatever, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, like I can't really think to say who's gonna win here, but whatever, it is what it is. I've already talked about Xia Brookside getting a match against Ariana Grace, but that is happening next Thursday, which is again really weird. I don't know why you've done that. You might as well have put it on Rebellion. Maybe you're trying to build for stipulation. I don't know. Whatever. Wait and see. The international title, Trey Miguel and Mustafa Ali. This match was announced way earlier on the night. And this will be an absolute effing banger. And will probably steal the frickin' show. Like Cedric and Slater will probably be pretty good. But unfortunately, it's fairly predictable in some ways to some extent because you haven't built Cedric up enough and whatnot. So it's like, well, whatever. And again, like with the system, I said, like, they might be a little bit built up, but they're not that built up. But they're not the main story rivals now, at least like within the X division. At least you could kind of say, well, at least maybe Alexander is the main rival there, at least right now. I mean, the international title division is just a mess because like you've got, you know, a lot of guys that you don't know what you're doing kind of what with, and you're just kind of trying to make them fit into this extra division that you don't really need. So Yeah, but it is producing some really great stories and some really great bangers, so I guess I can't complain too much. So, but yeah, I want to see more of a focus on one thing or another kind of thing. Maybe this should have been in the X division. I don't know, but then again, I still feel like I feel like Trey is so far away from the main event, but I do want him to be built into that main event, or at least that semi-main event. So I guess that's kind of what you're trying to do here. And Ali, I feel like he should be in the main event, or at least the semi-main event. You know, like I don't understand why you're pushing him back down into the mid card. But again, it's like, well, yes, we just don't have enough other things to do whatever else. The Elegance brand come out to talk and carry on about ODB and the others, etc., that they've been mocking for the last few weeks. ODB comes out, says, like, I'll come and fight you. And Taryn Terrell, what the hell? She's back? I thought she's retired, dude. Um, for an appearance. Like, okay, that's cool. But it's still 3v2. And here comes Mickey James. Hey, hardcore country. To take out the Elegance brand and send them packing. So I said as well before about this, you're probably building some sort of tag team match. Looks like a 6-person tag team match. And that will probably be at Rebellion. I've talked on and off about the Macklin Santana match, and it is a real big letdown. It is the biggest letdown of the show, unfortunately. But, like, what can you do? Like, if somebody, like, suffers a legit injury, what are you meant to do? I'm 100% sure that at this point that this is a legit injury that Steve Macklin must have suffered, because they would not have planned this out this way to be like, have this happen in the main event. Especially after the show that they had. Yes, there were some down matches or whatever else it was. And of course, it did seem like, hey, they were planting the seeds earlier for Eddie to come in because he got out of his match pretty unscathed or whatever, and that sort of thing. But again, here you are to have this thing. And I think, as well, as I said, Eddie was meant to interfere or to do something in this match, perhaps set up the match later. But again, we haven't got confirmation on whether it's going to be Santana and Eddie, or it's going to be Nick Nemeth challenging. Maybe it's going to be a triple threat. I don't know. I am seriously hoping Macklin is okay in this. I'm assuming he is, because he was able to talk and walk out of the ring. But yeah, obviously that wasn't the way that the match was meant to end. I really don't think that was the way the match was meant to go. And like I think they did what they could at the end with the run-in that they were going to do somewhere in this match. With Eddie to come in and say, hey, okay, I'm going to put you through the table or whatever, like we planned or whatever. I think that was part of the plan, or whatever. So maybe it was improvised, I'm not too sure, but I do think that the fans wanted to see the table earlier in the show, and they didn't get to see it because, yeah, and again, that was perhaps on plan, because again, like, they knew they were going to use the table in the main event. So, or at least, like, there was, like, maybe we'll want to use a table in the main event. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that this match would have been really good if Macklin hadn't have got injured. And, yeah, like, everyone was waiting for this thing to happen and excited for this. And I did say, like, I felt like this isn't the end. This just doesn't make any sense. Why have this on a B show? Why not have it at Rebellion? you've got, and I said before, I felt like Macklin's not going to win because, like, you've got too many other challengers for Santana. You've got all these other things happening. Now maybe Macklin's going to come back. Maybe, like, there was some of this, like, stuff to be, like, said about, like, maybe something where Macklin felt gypped in the match and would come back later, in a few months or something like that, or whatever it was. So maybe there was a plan of some sort in that, but, like, I definitely don't think that this is the way that they intended for it to go, because this was over in, like, a few minutes. So for a main event to be over in a few minutes, like, that didn't deliver in that regard. But they tried to salvage it the best that they can, because it in at least some, maybe, like, it's not that serious of an injury, but it was at least as serious enough of an injury or a concussion or whatever else it was for the match to be called off and the match to be stopped. So that's where I feel like this match is. It's really unfortunate that is what happened in this match. But again, it in some ways it's a blessing in disguise in some ways, because, again, like, yes, it sucks that, the match didn't have a conclusive finish or whatever else it was, but like I said, this thing between Macklin and Santana, this is just getting started in many ways. And I said before, like, what are you going to do? Because you don't have enough good baby faces in your main event scene, really. But also you're jumping the gun some ways between this thing with Macklin and Santana, and it can't be over. Like, obviously now it can't be over, but to me, it couldn't be over here. And, like, if you were going to have this match between Santana, Eddie, and Nemeth, or some combination thereof next month, or these next 2 weeks, like, again, you wouldn't be looking at, like, you wouldn't be looking at Macklin winning, so you would have had to have gypped Macklin in some ways, which I felt like is going to be a really hard thing to do, because he's the heel, you know what I mean? So I don't know how you were going to do that, or how you plan to do that, but this probably worked out better, and people still might be a bit mad at this end, but, like they would at least be understanding, hey, like, at least in theory, at least hopefully, that was a legit injury, so they just had to pivot, they had to change whatever they were doing, and had to go with some of at least what they were planning in the match, to get to the point of saying, hey, this is where we're kind of going, or whatever. I do hope Macklin is alright, and I hope that he can come back, and I don't know when he's going to challenge. Maybe Slammiversary, maybe Bound for Glory. You wouldn't think that it'd be that far away. And again, like, Slammiversary isn't that far away, I guess. But still, like, I'm wondering now how you're going to do that, or what it is, and whatnot. So, yeah. But we'll have to wait and see. So, for now, I think that is the review of this show. And we'll have to wait till next week to see the ramifications. I suppose the tapings are already going to be on tomorrow, but I don't usually look at the spoilers or whatever, but, like I keep saying, you guys, if you want me to read through the spoilers, I will, just to wrap things up and figure out, like, where we're going, and at least we can tell a coherent story, or we can at least focus on the coherent story. So yeah, hopefully we'll figure that out in the next couple of weeks. Especially this next week, they have to at least announce, like, several of the matches, because it's, like, only a couple of weeks away. So yeah, and that building is not very full. But maybe I'll talk more about that in the next video, which is more, like, I guess we'll go, like, more or less into the, like, review of Sacrifice itself, and more just, like, talking about, like, these matches or whatever else it is that they have announced. So yeah, hope you will join me again in that one, and I hope you'll all be good to one another in the meantime.